If you pay close attention to the way innovation travels quietly at first, then suddenly, with unstoppable momentum, you begin to realize that startups are not born from capital alone. They are born from energy, from restlessness, from the refusal of a few bold minds to accept the world as it is. And when you zoom out and look across the globe, the world reveals itself as a constellation of such restless places, cities, and ecosystems, where ambition gathers, where ideas collide in cafes, co-working hubs, university labs, and late-night basement offices. These places are not merely locations on a map. They are emotional climates, environments that dare people to dream bigger than what is reasonable. For decades, Silicon Valley was treated as the sun around which the world's innovation orbited, and for good reason. The valley radiates a certain mythology: garage, founders, hoodie-wearing engineers, venture capitalists who see billions in a rough sketch on a whiteboard. But what most people misunderstand is that the valley was not a miracle. It was a mindset. A mindset built on speed, experimentation, tolerance for failure, and a belief almost spiritual that the future belongs to those who invent it. This mindset became contagious, and as the world watched, other cities began to build their own versions of that alchemy. Today, the global startup scene is no longer a single center of gravity. It is a network of rising constellations. Some glow with technological ambition, others pulse with cultural creativity. Some are powered by necessity, others by opportunity. But all of them share something essential. They are places where the future is being negotiated. Travel east from California and you eventually reach Tel Aviv, a city whose innovation is woven into its survival. Israel's startup ecosystem did not grow from abundance, but from constraint. Scarcity forged creativity. Urgency forged boldness. And today, Tel Aviv's founders operate with a kind of fearless clarity, building cybersecurity giants, AI breakthroughs, and hardware innovations in narrow streets, filled with sunlight and stubborn optimism. The city breathes resilience, and its startups reflect that energy. Here, failure is not shameful. It is a rite of passage. Every cafe table feels like the beginning of something. Move north, and the world leads you into Stockholm, a city that contradicts every outdated idea about what a startup hub should be. Quiet, clean, measured, sustainable. Yet Stockholm produces unicorns with an almost startling consistency. Companies like Spotify, Klarna, Skype firms that reshaped industries with elegance rather than noise. Stockholm proves that innovation does not require chaos. It requires clarity. It thrives not only in pressure cookers, but in environments where design, function, and imagination merge. Here, entrepreneurship feels less like rebellion and more like craftsmanship. Then, on the other side of the Atlantic, you find yourself in Toronto, a place quietly becoming one of the most multicultural engines of innovation on the planet. Toronto's strength is not a single industry, but diversity itself. Its founders come from every corner of the world, carrying stories, struggles, and insights that make the city fertile ground for new ideas. Artificial intelligence research thrives here. Fintech grows rapidly. Climate tech takes root. And because Toronto's startup scene is not built on ego but on collaboration, the city feels like an ecosystem where anyone, regardless of background, can walk in with a dream and find someone willing to believe in it. But no global tour would be complete without Bengaluru, the heartbeat of India's startup revolution. If Silicon Valley was born in garages, Bengaluru was born in classrooms. Generations of engineers, programmers, and mathematicians created an intellectual engine powerful enough to support an entire startup renaissance. Walk through the city today, and you can feel the electricity. Young founders building payment systems for millions, ed-tech platforms reshaping classrooms, health tech solutions reaching rural areas long ignored by traditional infrastructure. Bengaluru is not simply innovating for itself, it is innovating for the world's next billion users. Further east lies Singapore, a city that feels almost designed for the future. Efficient, disciplined, strategic. Singapore's government didn't wait for innovation to happen, it architected innovation. Through regulation, funding, policy, and infrastructure. It created a playground where fintech, biotech, and logistics companies could grow faster than anywhere else in the region. Here, ambition feels safe, vision feels supported, risk feels managed. Startups flourish, not because they fight the system, but because the system nourishes them. Then there is Berlin, rebellious, creative, still echoing with the energy of reinvention. Berlin's startup ecosystem grew not from wealth, but from freedom, low cost of living, a thriving arts scene, a culture of individuality, and a hunger to rewrite outdated institutions. Berlin is where fintechs like N26 take aim at banking, where mobility companies rethink how cities move, where founders blend technology with culture in ways that challenge traditional industries. Berlin feels like the startup world's attic, messy, eclectic, full of hidden treasures waiting to be discovered. But perhaps the most quietly transformative hub is Nairobi, a city that demonstrates what innovation truly means. Here, startups are not building convenience, they are building necessity. Mobile banking was not an upgrade but a lifeline. Payment systems like M-Pesa reshaped financial inclusion. Startups in agriculture, health, and energy solve problems with a precision the developed world often overlooks. Nairobi is a reminder that innovation does not belong to the wealthy, it belongs to the resourceful. And resourcefulness creates ideas that ripple far beyond borders. As you walk through this global landscape, Valley to Tel Aviv, Stockholm to Bengaluru, Singapore to Berlin, Nairobi to Toronto, you begin to notice something subtle but profound. Every startup hub has a story. And every story contains the same heartbeat, a frustration with the way things are, a belief in the way things could be, a willingness to risk comfort in pursuit of possibility. Founders in every corner of the world share a universal trait. They do not wait for permission to build the future. They begin before they feel ready. And this is where the global startup scene becomes more than geography. It becomes a mirror. It reflects back to you the truth that innovation is not confined to borders, economies, or cultures. It is a human impulse, a creative force, a refusal to accept limitations. Every hub, no matter how different, carries the same flame. Some burn with speed, some burn with precision, some burn with rebellion, some burn with vision. But all of them illuminate the path forward. The magic of observing this global tapestry is realizing that the future is not being built in one place. It is being built everywhere, simultaneously, by people who might never meet each other, but who share the same courage. The courage to imagine something better, to build something new, to take the raw materials of today and craft the architecture of tomorrow. And as you look across these rising hubs, each unique, each vibrant, each indispensable, you begin to understand that innovation does not ask where you live. It asks what you're willing to risk in order to bring an idea into the world, and what part of yourself you're willing to evolve as you build it. Because startups, no matter where they emerge, demand a kind of personal transformation from their founders. They require you to become someone who can withstand uncertainty, someone who can navigate chaos, someone who can move forward without guarantees. And as you travel deeper into this global landscape through the buzzing cities, the rising hubs, the ecosystems humming with possibility, you begin to see that what unites these places is not their infrastructure, but their spirit. A spirit that whispers the same message in 1,000 different accents. Create, build, try, begin. In Silicon Valley, that whisper is wrapped in optimism. The valley speaks in a voice that says, "Why not you?" It's a place where the improbable feels almost expected, where failure is simply one version of progress, and where small teams in cramped rooms dare to reshape entire industries. The valley teaches founders that speed matters, but conviction matters more. It teaches them that disruption is not aggression, it is imagination refusing to stay quiet. And whether you admire or critique the valley, you cannot deny that it has taught the world one essential truth. The future bends toward those who experiment boldly. In Tel Aviv, the whisper sounds more like defiance. Israeli founders are forged in an environment where resilience is not optional. It is cultural. They learn early how to make decisions under pressure, how to adapt quickly, how to trust tightly knit teams. Tel Aviv startups often feel like families at war with stagnation, united by purpose and sharpened by urgency. The city's innovation pulse is fast, intense, electric. It teaches the world that creativity blooms not only in comfort, but in constraint, that necessity does not just breed invention, it breeds courage. In Stockholm, the whisper carries a tone of quiet precision. Swedish founders approach innovation with minimalism, elegance, and long-term thinking. They build companies like architects designing for generations, not quarters. Stockholm teaches that beauty and utility can coexist, that innovation can be calm, that growth can be sustainable rather than explosive. It stands as proof that the world does not need more noise, it needs more clarity. In Toronto, the whisper is one of inclusivity. The city's strength lies in its mosaic of cultures, languages, and perspectives. Here, innovation is not born from uniformity, but from diversity of thought, background, and ambition. Toronto teaches the world that global problems require global teams and that the cross-pollination of ideas creates solutions that could never emerge from a single worldview. Its startups feel expansive, empathetic, multidisciplinary. They echo the truth that innovation flourishes where people feel they belong. In Bengaluru, the whisper carries the unmistakable urgency of scale. India's startup ecosystem is driven by a population that demands solutions at magnitudes most countries never encounter. Founders here don't just build products, they build infrastructures capable of serving millions. Bengaluru teaches the world that innovation is not merely about novelty, it is about reach, about accessibility, about lifting entire populations. It proves that startups can be both ambitious and compassionate, solving problems that matter on a scale that reshapes nations. In Singapore, the whisper sounds like strategic orchestration. Every step in the city-state startup rise has been deliberate. Funding programs, innovation labs, tax incentives, global partnerships. Singapore shows that the future can be engineered when vision meets execution. Its startups thrive not in chaos, but in careful design. And this environment teaches an essential lesson. Innovation does not always grow wild. Sometimes it grows best when cultivated with intention. In Berlin, the whisper feels like rebellion. The city's creative energy is raw, unfiltered, unpolished. Berlin startups are rarely afraid to challenge institutions or norms. They push boundaries not for spectacle, but for authenticity. Berlin teaches that innovation often emerges from those unwilling to conform, unwilling to stay silent, unwilling to accept a system that no longer serves. It reminds the world that creativity and counterculture are not distractions, they are catalysts. And then, in Nairobi, the whisper resonates with necessity. The problems faced here, access to finance, healthcare, energy, transportation, are not hypothetical. They are daily realities. And startups in Nairobi solve them with elegance born from urgency. Their innovations leapfrog outdated systems, proving that some of the most transformative ideas arise far from traditional tech hubs. Nairobi teaches the world that innovation is not a luxury, it is survival, and survival, when paired with ingenuity, becomes a force the world cannot ignore. As you weave these cities together, something extraordinary becomes visible. Innovation is not just happening everywhere, it is evolving everywhere, in its own dialect. Each hub contributes a different chapter to the story of global progress. Some build tools for convenience, others build tools for survival. Some aim for efficiency, others aim for equity. Some dream of disrupting markets, others dream of creating entirely new ones. But all of them push humanity forward in ways both loud and quiet, visible and invisible. And somewhere in this realization lies a deeper truth. The global startup landscape is not simply an economic phenomenon. It is a human one. It reflects our collective desire to advance, to improve, to challenge, to create. It reflects the courage of individuals willing to leave safety for possibility. It reflects the resilience of communities that foster ambition even when resources are scarce. It reflects the power of imagination to transcend borders, cultures, and constraints. This understanding transforms the way you perceive entrepreneurship. You stop seeing startups as isolated companies and start seeing them as expressions of human momentum. You begin to appreciate the founder in Stockholm designing a frictionless user experience with the same reverence as the founder in Nairobi building a payment system that empowers rural families. You begin to understand that innovation is not about who wins. It is about what rises. And what rises, across the world, are new ways of working, thinking, creating, and living. But perhaps the most profound realization comes when you see the global startup scene not as a map of competing hubs, but as a tapestry of complementary forces. Silicon Valley offers daring. Tel Aviv offers resilience. Stockholm offers clarity. Toronto offers diversity. Bengaluru offers scale. Singapore offers structure. Berlin offers rebellion. Nairobi offers necessity. And when you put these together, you see a picture of the future far richer than any single city could create alone. And standing before this tapestry, you begin to ask yourself a quiet question, the same question whispered in every innovation hub on Earth. What future am I willing to build? Because the global startup scene is not just something to observe, it is something to join. Whether you build, invest, support, or simply imagine, you become part of this evolving story. You become a thread in the global weave of progress. You become someone who does not wait for change, but participates in its creation. And in that moment, standing at the intersection of possibility and courage, you begin to sense that the world is inviting you into the work of shaping tomorrow, not through grand gestures, but through the steady, intentional act of bringing forth ideas that the world has not yet seen but quietly needs. Ideas that begin as sparks inside you and evolve into something capable of